I'm going to go ahead with the meeting beginning ritual now. 起立，面向佛堂，参加先鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，参加各位的传习鞠躬，开班一鞠躬，请坐下。
And welcome everyone to another installment of our online study group. It is a remarkably balmy, has it hit 60 yet? Let's see. It is exactly 60 degrees in scenic Indianapolis right now, which is amazing for January up here. I have to tell you all, one of the things that I do, and I've actually mentioned this a couple of times because I'm ready for spring in a huge way right now. One of the things that I do is that I look for the return of the robins up here. It's a migratory bird that shows up here usually around the end of February, the beginning of March, as winter starts to wind down, and it's kind of that first little harbinger of the coming of spring. And I was sitting out on the front porch this morning and noticed a pair of robins in my front yard in one of the trees at the end of January, which is highly unusual. Perhaps that's also the portent of climate change and global warming, who knows, but the robins are here in Indiana. It's 60 degrees outside. I was buzzed by a honeybee. So yeah, and all of those things up here at this time of the year are extremely unusual. This has been a very mild winter, for which I'm quite thankful, and it's warmed up nicely, but awfully early. So. But anyway, be that as it may, I'm always happy to see the warm weather and the arrival of spring, and I'm always very, very thankful to be allowed to live to see the coming of another one. Derek and I were talking just a bit a couple of moments ago about what the text on the Happy New Year's cards said, and part of what he was alluding to was the messages for blessings and wishings of good fortune and that sort of thing, as part of what they said, and admonitions to continue proper and right cultivation of the Tao teachings, which absolutely couldn't have come at a better time for me this week, because that's kind of part of what we're going to talk about. I love it when a plan comes together. And so, without further ado, walking on the Great Tao. This comes from chapter 53 of the Tao Te Ching, Mr. Bill's paraphrased edition, and it's one of my favorite chapters in the entire Tao Te Ching. Of everything that Lao Tzu wrote and said, there are a few chapters that for whatever reason just resonate with me extremely deeply. This is one of them. And what Lao Tzu says is, if I have a little knowledge walking on the Great Tao, I fear only to deviate from it. Every time I read this, I feel somehow closer to the path and closer to what Lao Tzu was thinking, what his mental image was when he penned these words, what it was he was trying to convey, than the last time that I read it. And as I read through this chapter yet again, it dawned on me that a lot of what he's talking about here is a treatise on the essence of both the path and of human nature. Lao Tzu says that the Great Tao is broad and plain, but people like the side paths. He says the courts are corrupt, the fields are barren, the warehouses are empty. a lot of the times in reading this chapter, I kind of read and saw those words, but didn't really take time to savor them, as it were. I didn't really contemplate them to the same extent that I contemplate the thought of the path being broad and plain and easy to walk. For me, that draws a rather particular mental picture. But for some reason, over the last couple of days, the other half of the message there has drawn its own set of mental images. Lao Tzu goes on to say that the officials wear fineries, very nice, perhaps extravagant clothing, that they carry sharp swords, that they're given over to excessive food and drink, and the accumulation and hoarding of excessive wealth. All of these things are representative of the various side paths that we all manage to get stuck on. Lao Tzu says that he fears to deviate from that broad, plain, easy-to-walk path. I think because in a moment of clarity he realized exactly how easy it is to wander off of that broad, plain, easy-to-walk path. The Great Tao is broad and plain, but people like the side paths. We see that on a daily basis every time we turn on an electronic device. How many different ads are available to us describing for us the latest methodology and how to lose weight, or get that six-pack set of abs we've always wanted, or get rid of that underarm fat, or take care of that double chin. How many ads do we see encouraging us to strive for the Photoshop cosmopolitan model image of beauty and success that the world seems to crave these days? It's everywhere. It's pervasive. And all of those methods are available for a mere $19.99 plus shipping and handling, and will work in 10 to 14 days with no effort on our part whatsoever. I know, I've seen it on TV. If I just take this pill or rub on this cream or put on this belt or use this device or appliance in 10 to 14 days for $20, my fat will melt off my body and women will be banging my front door down to jump all over me. I'm not sure that anybody's bothered to consider the consternation that's going to cause my wife. But I'm not too terribly worried because, quite frankly, I don't think there's anything out there that I'm going to wrap around my tummy that's going to make my fat disappear in 14 days. I look at these commercials and as you may have surmised, regard them with a certain amount of tongue-in-cheek humor because it's ridiculous. It just is. There are no shortcuts, not in life and not in our spiritual path either. And yet, you know, in the ways of spirituality, there are as many people out there, if not more, peddling the quick, easy shortcut to health, wealth, prosperity, and heaven, as there are people peddling weight loss plans and the secrets to success and wealth. I have to believe that aspect of human nature has not changed in the last 5,000 years. Lao Tzu spoke and wrote of the sages of ancient times relative to his own existence. So when he spoke of the sages of old, he was talking about people, Taoist adepts, sages in Tao cultivation, the masters, if you will, of his day, those people that they revered, who were 2,500 years older than he was. Just as we regard the ancient sages as Lao Tzu and his contemporaries from 2,500 years before us. And I'm going to tell you, I think even Chin So Huangdi was beset by 1,000 people all offering to help him lose weight, get six-packs, abs, become beautiful, garner every woman in the kingdom, and achieve the secrets to wealth, success, and power in 14 days or less, all for $20. Even though he was the emperor. If he'd had a TV, it would have been there too. I'm virtually positive that the desire of the human mind to find a quicker, easier, faster, less arduous or tedious way to get from point A to point B has been with us pretty much from the beginning. And I think that aspect of human nature has caused those who desire to cultivate the Tao teachings issues for as long as there have been people trying to cultivate the teachings. Because as we wander down that broad, plain, easy to walk path, it is so easy to see that shiny object over there in the swamp and be curiosity driven to go find out what it is and what it does. Those side paths never bring us to lasting results. There is no enduring success in anything that can be accomplished for $20 in 14 days with no work. And if you think I'm being overly harsh or inaccurate, allow me to ask you to consider what happens to the participants in the vast majority of those lose weight quick schemes that are advertised so heavily on television, when after their 14 days and their 10 or 15 pound loss, things stop working. One of the things that makes peddling a diet plan such a wonderful and lucrative business is that people have a remarkable propensity to hang on to the plan for a month or two and then jump off the wagon. And so they stay on the diet for a couple of months, 3 months, a year, whatever. And then they stop. They think they've got it whooped. And all of a sudden, all the weight they lost previously is right back with them. And so now we got to go try the next fad so that 10 to 14 days from now we can be rid of a whole bunch of weight with no effort and no exercise and no work and all of that. And that cycle goes on and on and on and on and on, sometimes rather publicly. Oprah Winfrey's gone up and down like a yo-yo. I don't think she's disingenuous. I think she suffers from the very same human nature the rest of us do. She's just had the courage to put her journey on television. Long-term, lasting, consistent benefits come from long-term, consistent, lasting practice. This is why Lao Tzu fears to deviate from the path. Because deviating is very easy, and getting back to the path can be very difficult. When we find ourselves distracted from where we're really going, then we find ourselves in trouble. Lao Tzu also speaks about what is and what is not the Tao here. The previous writings about the officials wearing fineries and carrying sharp swords and eating and drinking excessively and hoarding wealth and what have you, Lao Tzu says that's robbery, that it is absolutely not the Tao. What does that have to do with the Tao being that broad, plain, easy-to-walk path? Well, that's the part that perhaps became a little more clear this time than previously. And let me say real quick, there is nothing wrong with secular success or with accumulating wealth or anything else that makes you happy, as long as we don't live a life of excess, and as long as those things that we work so hard to acquire do not rule our lives. It's important for the things of our secular lives to maintain their proper place and perspective, and for our secular life to maintain a proper place and perspective relative to our spiritual existence and our journey of cultivation. The Tao of moderation isn't just a good idea. It's a law if we want to be successful. Kind of like gravity. You may not like it, but you got to abide by it. It is when we lead a life of excess, a life of ill intent, a life of, if you will, poor management, that we really find ourselves in trouble and stuck. And that's what Lao Tzu is speaking about when he talks about the officials and their station in life, where they wound up. Bear in mind also that we are the officials. We are the people walking the broad plain path. We are also the people wearing the finery and carrying the swords and hoarding wealth and eating and drinking ourselves into a coma. Both of those people are each of us. We have to make some choices about where our lives are going to go and what we're going to do with them. If we permit ourselves to be distracted from that broad, plain, easy-to-walk path, where we wind up is dressed in the silk suit and carrying weapons of war. When we set our secular lives ahead of our spiritual cultivation, when we give up our proper perspective, when the things we desire become more important to us than the things that we need, then we have deviated from the path of the Tao down one of the side paths. We've got our $20 in our hot little hands, and we're ready to go have somebody overhaul our lives with no effort and no work and only in 10 to 14 days. The distractions and the hoarding and the excesses are the ruination of people. And it is so very easy to wind up there. that it's one of the few times I recall Lao Tzu saying that something scares him. If I have a little knowledge of walking on the Great Tao, I fear only to deviate from it. I think about those words every couple of days. I have a hard enough time just trying to understand the teachings and apply them. I don't just fear deviating from the path, but deviating from ignorance, from not knowing what I don't know, and walking face first into an entire forest of problems as a result. I can't absorb the knowledge fast enough. But life really isn't lived in a hurry. And so, irregardless of how I feel about it, I'm kind of doomed to fall down every now and again. But at least I try not to wind up wandering off down one of the side paths. It's important to remember that we always have control over where we go and what we do. And I think it's both right and appropriate that, like Lao Tzu, we say to ourselves, if I have even just a little knowledge of walking on the Great Tao, I fear only to deviate from it. You know, so often we lose sight of how broad and plain and easy the Tao path is to walk. I've caught myself thinking this can't possibly be all there is to it. It's got to be harder than this. No, it really doesn't have to be. It's a way of peace. It's a way of tolerance and compassion, self-refinement and spiritual improvement. You know, so while it's very, very easy to wind up shuffling off down some supposed shortcut to spiritual enlightenment or secular success, understand that the only results are achieved in a lifetime of just walking the path. You know, the other thing that I hope we all understand is that fear of deviating from the path was based on an understanding that Lao Tzu had, and I believe that human nature just makes it very easy for us to wander off looking for the next shortcut, looking for the next shiny bauble, looking for whatever method or madness may bring us to our desired goal more quickly or more easily. Well, in this particular case, there is no more quickly or more easily. This is just what there is. And so maybe through remaining aware and a bit vigilant, and by applying those teachings in a consistent and straightforward way, we can kind of avoid wandering off down the side paths, and day by day just make a little progress down the path we're supposed to be on. Thank you all awful much for letting me share with you, and I truly hope something I said was helpful. Thank you.
Let's go ahead and do the meeting ending ritual, everybody. 起立，面向佛堂，持架3鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，3鞠躬，持架规格是1鞠躬，接班1鞠躬。Okay, everybody, we are done.
Participate in the Tao meeting by joining us online. For information, go to Taoism.net/Tao